Well, we're about to dive into the next bit of our tour through the Bible and our retelling of God's big story. And where we left it last time was at the end of the book of Judges. There's a statement that the people did what they pleased because there was no king in the land. And so, in that context, everybody becomes their own king, their own ruler, their own boss. Now, the first thing to say about that is that probably feels a bit like modern society, doesn't it? And in fact, the church can become a bit like that, that we make our own decisions. We do what is right in our own eyes. There is no king. There is no ultimate authority. And that's particularly true of postmodern thinking, where all truth becomes relative. My truth can compete with yours. So it's not just that there isn't a king, that there isn't a human ruler, but even the facts don't get the rule. And so we do what we like because we judge ourselves by our own standards. And at that point you realise there are no standards. Because wasn't a famous person who once said, I have my principles, and if you don't like my principles, I can offer you another option, another set of principles. Which principles do you want? But what I wanted to pick up just at this point is this, that there are, in terms of our themes that are emerging in the story, there are some key types of personal offices that we see emerging in the story. We've met some of them already, although we've not made a big thing about them in our telling of the story in the videos, but actually they've been there, and there may be a point where you want to trace the story looking at these particular things. So we have met priests and prophets. Moses is the archetypical prophet in the Old Testament, the one who speaks for God, that brings God's word to the people. And Aaron, of course, is the priest, and the tribe of Levi will become the priestly line. The priest who is there, if the prophet speaks for God, the priest speaks to God for the people, bring in the offerings, bring in the sacrifices. The priest is the mediator. But the third category is the king. And in fact, in the book of Deuteronomy, I think it's around Deuteronomy chapter 18, you will see that God begins to give instructions about how you know if a prophet is a true prophet from God, but also what responsibilities and duties and restrictions there are to be on the king, which suggests that there was an expectation that there would be a king. But whilst there are things that come up in terms of Samuel's questions, we'll come to Samuel shortly, but in terms of his questions about whether the people, when they demand a king, ask for a king, are rejecting God, that actually God's already provided for kingship. But there you have this third category, the king. And of course, we're meant to think of God as the true king, the one who rules effortlessly. But we are also to rule, to subdue, and to rule over creation. And I guess there's a sense in which the king becomes the lead image bearer. If the prophet is the one who leads in speaking for God, from God, and for God, and the priest is the one who speaks to God, then the king, you could say, becomes the one who images God among the people. And we're going to see in the next section how Israel comes to have a king, and that search for the right king, God's king, the righteous king. But the key thing to highlight here is that those three offices, prophet, priest, and king, are all pointing forward to Jesus. They are types in the Old Testament, of which Christ is the antitype. So that Jesus is prophet, priest, and king. All of those roles land on him. As when we think about what we're meant to learn from the prophets, the priests, and the kings of the Old Testament, apart from the words that they say, we are meant to first of all apply it through Jesus. We will also reflect on how the New Testament will describe God's people as a kingdom of priests, and there's a sense in which we all become priests, not as the ultimate mediator, that we are a royal priesthood. So there is royalty, there's a kingliness about God's people, and there's a prophetic nature to what God's people do. And of course there are prophets and there's prophecy in the church. What I would be careful and wary of doing now, I've seen some people attempt to kind of overlay those roles of prophet, priest, and king onto church leadership, sometimes arguing that a pastor needs to be all three, or that all three types of role need to be present in the eldership of a church. I'm not convinced by that. There's nothing in the New Testament that indicates that we're meant to read things in that kind of way. But I think it is helpful to think that those three aspects are present amongst God's people. We bear God's image, we speak from God, and we intercede. We speak to God. Well, join us next time as we dig into 1 and 2 Samuel, and perhaps into Kings and Chronicles as well. Thank you for watching in.